Now, this is because of the theory of Einstein that takes a look at relationships of factors in space. The way we do this so that we don't violate the data is to create a mythical yardstick. This is the results, or a sample at least, of a study that was done for NASA related to the space shuttle. In a case like this, you imagine a stick, and in this case we're saying that imagine a stick that's 30 units long. On one side of the stick is an airplane, on the other side is a satellite. We can agree that the two things are not the same. I'm going to give you pairs of words, and if you think the things that I give you are more alike than an airplane and a satellite, give me a shorter stick. If you think they're more different, give me a larger stick. In this particular one, we call them peaks. It can be units. It could be anything. What we're measuring is similarity or difference. You can also see here that we included yourself in the study. We took concepts from some open-ended surveys that we had done with people at PTA meetings all around the country, and you can see here that the list of the concepts are in the top: colonies in space, energy development, exploring space, etc. Each one of these are scored in relationship to all the others. So what you're getting is a series of syllogisms. What we do with it is to create a multidimensional map. Now you have to imagine that this is actually balls in space, all hanging out in various different relationships and distances from each other, even though it's a flat screen. So the notion of colonies in space might be across the street from where you're sitting right now. But each of these are positioned in space relative to each other. Now, what we want is to figure out, in this particular study, how do we create me, who's the typical voter, to be more tightly aligned with exploring space. The issue for NASA at the time is that it wasn't creating the imagination of the American public to increase the support and the votes for a budget to continue the space program. What we start with is a metric. We look at what's the distance today, or in this moment, between NASA and the voter, and here you can see it's 16.8. Then we use a form of vector analysis that says, of all the possible combinations of messages that could be used to communicate about NASA, which have the most power? In this case, scientific research, energy development, and new jobs. If those three themes are loaded on NASA, would create a different angle for NASA and reposition it and improve it so that its distance is 12.48 instead. That's a marginal improvement. In this instance, you can see that of all the other messages, if you wanted that improvement, you would focus on those three themes. NASA at the time was more interested in communicating about the space shuttle program rather than NASA itself for branding. And here, indeed, you can see that the distance between the voter and the space shuttle is farther apart. It was 22.5. They were correct that it was not capturing the imagination of the American public. Running the vector analysis again, the results show using the three themes of scientific research, energy development, and new jobs would create a new position for the space shuttle and improve the relationship by 50%, which is a dramatic improvement. Now, I don't know what many of you may remember about the messages with NASA at the time, but when you're looking at many companies, they quite innocently make a mistake and talk about what turns them on inside the organization. In this case, by talking about exploring space, the engineers were saying, wake up in the middle of the night, look at the Jet Propulsion Printout Laboratory stuff, isn't it exciting to see green cheese on Mars? They, in fact, were pushing the American public away by projecting onto the public what turned them on about their work. Quite innocently, companies do that all the time. Now, having said all of that about NASA, If we were to do the study again, we would find out that issues related to what would be important to communicate would change. Having had the thundering history effect of the space shuttle blow-up, I imagine that safety would be a factor. American heroes might come up. The important thing to know is that at any time that you use this kind of modeling, it is dynamic enough to tell you when to change the messages or the themes so that you are aligned with the interest of your customers, your community, your stakeholders. It's a dynamic way of keeping up with where your market is. The advantages, of course, are that it allows you to take a look at very different factors simultaneously. It's what I call being able to measure apples, peaches, pears, and pie. It gives you precise data about how those factors operate in the mind of the buyer. What we do want to remember is that a powerful tool like that shouldn't be used lightly. We tend to think of, a tool like this and say, all right, if you get this for Christmas and you go around the house and you turn all the screw heads in your house, and the sad day comes when you run out of screws to turn, you have to go to the store and get a file and take all the nails that are in the house so that you can put little slots in to keep using the same tool over and over. Now, if you get something as powerful as this Craftsman, you could run the risk of overusing the tool and slicing a salami with a chainsaw. We don't want to position Cascade in your thoughts as something that's overkill. It's much more like a toolkit. Those different elements of the qualitative and the quantitative and the components of those are meant to be used as is required for the research study that you might have at hand. It's highly flexible. Many people come to us and they have a level of research need that we only work with the qualitative. Others need the fractionation scales to understand some factors, but they don't need the precision of the multidimensional scaling. We will construct our studies based on what really is the research question at hand.
We're excited by the breakthrough results Cascade consistently produces for our clients. It's won awards for its major contributions to corporate success from General Electric and the International Communication Association. If you need data you can count on to gain strategic insight, customer loyalty, product and brand allegiance, or an increase in market share, I know Cascade can help you. Interestingly, also, because the data is so precise, we can do this with smaller sample sizes than you may be used to, which of course keeps the cost down, and that's an added advantage. Please, if you think we can help you with this, we'd love to hear from you. We're happy to speak with you about the details of your research needs. Call us anytime, and thank you for taking the time to learn more about Cascade.